Hello, BookTube, and thank you first for all your prayers for Princessa Jasmine. She made 100% recovery, and now I can take a breath and be ready for Nonfiction November. As you can see, I have quite a pile of possibilities for Nonfiction November. Hello everybody, I'm Marilyn, Maya, sometimes called the Baby Boomer Booktuber, and November is my favorite month of readathons because it has my favorite readathon of all. I would say my favorite readathon, which is Nonfiction November. Okay, it ties with March Mystery Madness, but I have to say that since I started BookTube, I've been ignoring a lot of the nonfiction that used to be my main kind of books to read. And to come back to them and to share them with you is such a joy. Nonfiction November on BookTube was started by the queen of nonfiction, Olive, from the channel A Book Olive. And every year she comes up with words that that we can use our imagination for, to or not, and assign books, you know, to that prompt. So this year, and she always says to join in for Nonfiction November, you only have to read one nonfiction book. So if you read none, read one. If you read one, read more, and then you're in. So I'm going to have all her details down below in the description box, including her announcement video and her channel video. So please check it out. I'm sure you've already know about Olive. So let's get started. The 4 prompts this year are record, element, border, and secret. And I think they're great words. So I looked up just to make sure that I can put the books in the proper order. So record is a chronicle, a list, a document, or a report. So basically it could be anything because that's what a book is. Element is a little bit trickier. It's a component, a part, a factor, or an ingredient. Border, well, you know, you can think of different borders, but it also means the brink, to be on the brink of something, a boundary or a limit. And secret, well, that's self-explanatory. So let's get started with my pile of possibilities and for sure reads for November. My first book is one of Olive's favorite books, and I bought it like a year ago, and I never got to it, and I'm so excited to be reading this with a subscriber this month. And it's H is for Hawk by Helen Macdonald. And it's about a woman who in her grief decides to train a bird, a raptor. And it says it's a meditation on the bond between beasts and humans and the pain of beauty of being alive. So that sounds really good. I did hear a negative review on it, but I'm going to ignore that for now because I want to see, you know, what my own opinion is before deciding if, you know, how I feel about this book. And it's my first my first buddy read with a subscriber, so I'm extra excited. So that's H is for Hawk. Oh, so what does it come under? Well, I guess it can come under secret because this is a secret that we're going to find out what is between this particular raptor and what the raptor is all about. But it's also, of course, it's a memoir, so it's a record. You know, and yeah, I would think, and maybe it's also a border because it shows the limits that man and beast take together to become or not become friends. And there's another book out there that I'm not reading this Nonfiction November called The Fox and I, which is another type of book that it seems that has the same theme. Okay, so that's H is for Hawk. The next book by Meriel Schindler, can you guess what this is about? It's called The Lost Cafe Schindler. So there's a cafe, Schindler, that I never knew about. I don't know if you've watched the movie Schindler's List or read the book, but I thought that Liam Neeson should have won the Academy Award for that, because he just showed so many sides of who Schindler was. So anyway, but this is not about him directly. And it says it's rigorously researched. And yeah, it's by Meriel Schindler. And the Lost Cafe Schindler weaves together a compelling and at times deeply moving memoir and family history that also chronicles the wider story of the Jews of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And Anne Joseph says that. So it's actually about Kurt Schindler, who's Meriel's father, who's a difficult man, and his daughter spends her whole life trying to figure out to keep him at bay, and I think that means to keep him in control. Kurt has made extravagant claims about their family history. Were they really related to Franz Kafka and Oskar Schindler of Schindler's List fame? Or Hitler's Jewish doctor, Dr. Bloch? What really happened the night of Kristallnacht, the night the Nazis beat Christ's father half to death and ransacked the family home? So I guess she finds out, I don't want to go more into it, but I guess she finds out that there was a Cafe Schindler. And I bought this in May when I was traveling with my daughter to Paris. And I bought this at Shakespeare and Company, and I have the stamp to prove it. And I've never, I started it, but I never, it's one of those books that it was a soft DNF because I had so many other books to read. But I think I'm going to try to concentrate on the next few books, this book included, that I'm definitely going to put the pedal to the metal to read. And that comes into another book that I bought because of BookTube, and this is Dear Reader, The Comfort and Joy of Books by Cathy Rentzenbrink. And I think I found about this book through a lot of booktubers, but specifically from Alison, the Giant Bookshelf. And she said it was one of her favorite books, and it's a chronicle. So that should it's a record, a chronicle, a list. It's all of those things. So so for as long as she can remember, Cathy Rentzenbrink has lost and found herself in books, just like me and many of you. Growing up, she was rarely seen without her nose in a book. But when tragedy struck, it was books that kept her alive. Eventually, she found her way into a new path. First as a bookseller and then as a writer. No matter what the future holds, reading will always help. I love that. And I know I don't even know why I didn't read this right away the minute I got there. But I'm pretty sure she's going to give us a list. It says it's a love letter to stories and reading from one of our very best memoirists. Anina Stube said that, or Sibby. Sorry, I think she's an author that I heard of. So let me know in the comments if you heard of her. But yeah, I'm going to get to this for sure. And I'm just remembering, I think I also bought this at Shakespeare and Company. No, I didn't. I think I bought this online. Okay, so another book that I've talked about, so I'm not going to go into it. And I got this at our Honolulu library book sale. And it's my ideal bookshelf. And I want to get in, this is a book and coincidentally or not, I'm here at Mary Carr, one of my favorite. She wrote The Liars Club, which is a memoir that is one of my favorite memoirs. And I write memoirs, so she helped me a lot in figuring out what type of memoir to write, truthful. And anyway, so this book just has a bunch of books that every one of these people, some of them I've heard of, some of them I haven't, recommend. So it's sort of like the other book. So I really want to dip in and out of this book. And I hope you can see me well because it's getting dark in Honolulu. It's our winter, even though it's hot. And it gets dark really fast. So I'm going to try to get through these books as quick as possible. Another book is by Cheryl Strayed. I think she wrote I read the book Small Beautiful Things or Dear Sweetie, and it made me, this was on my shelf and I never got to it. I thought, what do I have in common with somebody who's gonna do a big hike? Oh, here it is. It's the Pacific Coast Trail. That shows you how much of a hiker I am. Okay, so it goes from Washington all the way down to Mexico, and it's wild because her life was wild, and she's trying to, I think she suffered from drug addiction, and she's trying to change her life. So yeah, and when I read the other book by her, I realized this is a special lady and I have to read more. Another special lady that has been helping me since the 1980s, and this is another nonfiction self-help book, and her name she's not dead yet, Jennifer Loudin. And I'm going to put her first book that helped me in the 80s, and it was called The Woman's Comfort Book. And this is well used, as you can see, really helped me during a hard period in my life. So I would call this, I would call it an element because it has the ingredients in it to heal yourself from whatever ails you. And her new book, 2020, is Why Bother? Discover the Desire for What's Next. And Jennifer Loudin, I mean, she's kind of the queen of self-help. And I really want to get into this. I know self-help books don't get a good, they don't have a good reputation on booktube, but they've helped me get through this thing called life. So I'm definitely going to put this Why Bother, and maybe I'll even reread the Woman's Comfort Book, which I suggest you get. Another book that I was recommended recently by either by booktube or by Goodreads is Twyla Tharp, and this book is Keep It Moving. And as you can see, she's an older lady like I am, and it says she's bossy, and I like that. And the author of the New York Times bestseller, The Creative Habit. And I think of myself as creative because I'm a writer. I was a singer at one time. I was a dancer. And dancing, I said in one of my latter videos that I don't have any books about dancing. And I love dancing. I watch everything on television or movies about dancing. So I want to see what she says, because she's sort of the creator of modern dance. Anyway, so what is this? I guess this is a record, a list, a secret, right? Because she's going to give us the secret on how to survive when we're older. So these are the ones that I'm reading for sure. Another book that I found by looking up books is another memoir that's supposed to be one of the best memoirs in the century. And it's called Paula Fox, Borrowed Finery. And so it's a memoir. And she's born in the 20s to nomadic bohemian parents. And she's left at birth in a Manhattan orphanage. Already I want to read it. Rescued at the last moment, she's taken into the care of a poor but cultivated congregational minister in upstate New York. But her parents soon resurface. And I think I know how this is going to go. You know, memoirs are, they're a record, they're a chronicle, they're secrets, they're everything. As in, you know, the one about Schindler, it could be even about borders, literal borders. Okay, so these are the books that I'm really, you know, want to get to. Now I want to get to my maybes and my soft DNFs, and I'm going to go through these quite fast. This is a book that I got as an ARC by the author, Carol Vanstrom, and I thought I wouldn't be interested in it, but as you know, time is going on, we're finding out more, and this is about herbicides and human rights. And it's sort of part memoir, part just history. And in The People versus Agent Orange, PBS tells the story of two women's quest for justice. This book gives the inside story of how that quest began for one of them. So it's about Agent Orange. And, you know, what happens when a bitter fog is released to humans, and what happens to the earth and what happens to the land. So I'm going to try to read this. I was going to give it away and then I changed my mind. So yeah. So thank you, Carol Strum, for letting me have this beautiful copy of the book. The next book, you know, I heard on booktubers lists as best of the year, and I think it was last year. So I'm not going to talk about it too much because most people know about it. It's called No Visible Bruises. What We Don't Know About Domestic Violence Can Kill Us by Louise Snyder. And it says it's gut-wrenching, it's required reading, and it's an account of why home is the most dangerous place to be a woman. Now, not only have I experienced domestic violence in I would say a small way, but I've witnessed many women in almost every place I've ever lived experience domestic violence. And I think it's underreported, understated, and undercared about. So I look forward to reading No Visible Bruises. The next book, it was a DNF for me, but people, you know, readers, you know, outside of BookTube and on BookTube, have told me to keep on with it. It's called Julie and Julia, My Year of Cooking Dangerously by Julie Powell. And so nearly 30 and trapped in a dead-end secretarial job, Julie Powell resolves to reclaim her life by cooking. In the span of a single year, every one of the 524 recipes in Julia Child's legendary Mastering the Art of French Cooking. So she tries them all. That's a very big list. So list is a record, a chronicle. But does she have any secrets? What should she learn about herself and about cooking? So if you've read this book, I know it's been a movie, and maybe that's why, you know, if I can't get into this, I might watch the movie instead. Tell me if that's a good idea or not. Okay, another book that I sort of was skeptical on reading is Fun House, Fun Home, a family tragicomic graphic memoir by Alison Bechdel. Now, Greg at Supposedly Fun says this is one of his favorite books of all times. I read another book by Alison Bechdel that I thought, I don't have the name right now, it's one of her latter books, and I think that it was mostly about mental health, which I thought she glossed over until the end, and it was more like, you know, make me laugh and then get serious about what she learned. So I didn't like that book, but this might have been her first book, and it's a memoir, of course. It's a graphic memoir, and I'm really getting into graphic memoirs. And 2006, so yeah. If it's funny, then great. I always need a laugh. So if it's, well, it's tragic comic. So I want to see what I feel about it, my second read of this author. So if you have any ideas, you read it, or you know about this author, just let me know in the comments. The next book I actually got for my daughter, who said she might read it, and it came highly rated as one of the best books of this kind in the decade, and it's by Rebecca Traister, All the Single Ladies, Unmarried Women and the Rise of an Independent Nation. And I won't tell you too much about this book, but it's historical nonfiction about how this century, you know, so basically she does research, and she started in 2010, and this book was, so that's 6 years of research, and she wanted to know what it would be, the 21st century phenomenon of the American single woman, and she finds out a lot of things. So only 20% of Americans are wed by age 29, compared to nearly 60% in 1960. So that's interesting in itself. So I'm going to go a little faster now because it's getting really dark. But I guess you can call this a chronicle, which would be a record. Also, secret, because it's a secret to me about this new generation of women and what they're facing and why there's a lot more women are not getting married. And we kind of know why, but you know, we have feminism and you don't have to get married right away, but yet there are barriers to that too, and there's pros and cons to both ways. So I want to read that. So I'm going to finish up with one more, and I'm going to leave the rest for another video. And this is Barbara Sher's idea book. And Barbara Sher, she, you know, sadly died a few years ago, but she lived such a rich, wonderful life, giving to other people, especially at the end of her life. She was, she went to Turkey to help people, and yeah, she wrote one of the most important books that I read when I was trying to feel better, which was Wishcraft, that I talked about extensively. So I want to know what her ideas were. What is her secret? What is her record? So yeah, I'll let you know if I get to it. And I'm just going to end with a magazine, The Anti-Inflammation Diet, because magazine, you know, magazines are really underappreciated now. There's no way I'm going to read a magazine online. You know, I loved magazines. When I couldn't afford books, magazines, they did it for me. And now they're so expensive, but I'm going to try to read more magazines. And yeah, so I'm going to end this here with, you know, with a part 2 maybe coming up. So let me know, have you read any of these books? Should I prioritize any of these books? Please let me know in the comments, and please subscribe to my channel. I'm almost at 1,000 subscribers, so I'm crossing my fingers. And I appreciate all of you, and I love all of you. So please take care of yourselves, and I will keep on taking care of my Princessa Jasmine. I'm so happy that she's well, because she's 15 and we were kind of, it was iffy for a week. So until we meet again in the next video, thank you with all my heart. Aloha.